Hi, thanks for joining us today. Today we're at the airport in Langley, British Columbia, and we're going to check out the Canadian Museum of Flight. Let's go and explore. Incorporated in the 1970s, the Canadian Museum of Flight is dedicated to the collection, preservation, and maintenance of aircraft and other artifacts of significance to aviation history. This is the Canadair CT-114 Tutor. It first flew in January 1960. The Tutor was used by the Canadian Armed Forces from 1963 until the year 2000. It's best known in North America as the aircraft used by the Snowbird Formation Aerobatics team, who have performed from the Northwest Territories all the way to Mexico. The Snowbird team has a total of 15 Tutors, 11 of which travel with the team during the airshow season. The CT-114 Tutor that's at the Canadian Museum of Flight was used by the Snowbird team in the mid-1970s. It's been refinished in the colors of Snowbird Captain Miles Selby, who was tragically killed while flying a Tutor in December 2004. This is the de Havilland DH-100 Vampire Mk3. The Vampire began as an experimental aircraft which first flew in September 1943. It utilized de Havilland's extensive experience with molded plywood for aircraft construction. This aircraft was the last time that composite wood and metal construction was used in high-performance military aircraft. It was the second British-designed and built jet fighter to go into service with the Royal Air Force, and was the first of its type for the Royal Canadian Air Force. This is the Beechcraft Expeditor, known as the Beech 18. It's a military version of the Model 18 light commercial transport that first flew in 1937. Over 5,000 of the military models were delivered during World War II. Here's a Lockheed CF-104D Mk2 Starfighter. Referred to as the missile with a man in it, the CF-104 was built in Canada under license by Canadair. It was envisioned as a high-speed, high-altitude point defense interceptor against relatively poor maneuvering manned bomber threats that existed in the early 1950s. The first aircraft produced by Canadair flew in 1961, with a total of 200 CF-104s being produced for the Royal Canadian Air Force. Lockheed also built 22 two-seater aircraft, known as the CF-104D, which were also used by the Royal Canadian Air Force. This is the Handley Page Hampden. The Canadian Museum of Flight is the only place that you can see a Handley Page Hampden on display. This aircraft is a stressed skin mid-wing monoplane which first flew in 1936. It had the most advanced wings available for its time, giving it a remarkably low landing speed of 73 miles an hour with a top speed of 265 miles an hour. The Hampden went into service in 1938 with the Royal Air Force, and over 1,400 of this aircraft were built. This specific aircraft is one of 160 that were built in Canada. Unfortunately, it only had about 100 hours of flying time before it crashed near Patricia Bay on November 15, 1942. The pilot made the error of turning at low speed and altitude, causing the aircraft to crash into the bay and quickly sink 600 feet to the bottom. Luckily, a nearby boat saw the incident and rescued the four-man crew, plucking them out of the water within minutes. After many years, the aircraft was badly corroded and very fragile. This made for a difficult salvage operation that was carried out by remote-controlled submarine and aided by video camera. Extensive reconstruction work was completed, and today you can see the only remaining Handley Page Hampden at the Canadian Museum of Flight. This Avro CF-100 Canuck Mk3B was known as the Clunk. It was the first 100% Canadian designed and built all-weather interceptor, which first flew in January 1950. Many innovations in radar and quick-change weapons were developed for the CF-100 and later incorporated into the infamous Avro Arrow. The Sikorsky S-55 is an all-metal construction helicopter. The fuselage is made up of aluminum and magnesium, and it has 3 aluminum blades. Sikorsky manufactured over 1,200 of the S-55s in a 10-year period from 1949 to 1959. Sopwith Aviation created a prototype single-seat biplane fighter named the Pup in February 1916. It entered service in the autumn of 1916, and the Royal Naval Air Service and Royal Flying Corps placed orders, with Pups arriving on the Western Front in October. The Pup's lightweight and generous wing area gave it a good rate of climb. The Pup proved to be superior over early Fokker and Albatross biplanes, but was eventually outclassed by newer German fighters and was replaced on the Western Front by the end of 1917. Built in 1930, this Waco INF is the oldest of its kind that's still flying in Western Canada, and one of only a few INFs left in the world. This INF was originally used for corporate flights by a Seattle-based washing machine salesman. It then passed through 16 owners over the next 20 years before arriving at the Museum of Flight in 1979. This is a Waco AQC-6, manufactured in Ohio in 1937. It was purchased by the Department of National Defense in Ottawa and operated by the Department of Transport until 1949. It was then moved to British Columbia and operated by BC Airlines, and then subsequently by a logging company. Its final owner was Dr. Jack Pickup of Alert Bay, who acquired the airplane in 1953 and used it as a Flying Doctor float plane. This is a Lockheed T-33 Silver Star, which was widely used as a two-seat advanced trainer. The prototype flew for the first time in 1948. Then in 1951, Canadair was given a contract to manufacture the T-33. T-33s were used as trainers in the Royal Canadian Air Force during the 1950s and 1960s. This particular plane was used in Manitoba for Royal Canadian Air Force and NATO pilot training until it was retired in 1967. It was then donated to the Museum of Flight by Northwest Industries in 1977. Thanks for joining us today at the Canadian Museum of Flight. Hope you enjoyed the tour. If you want to see our other adventures, remember to hit that subscribe button and check out our interactive map to see other museums that we've been to. Until next time, it's time to exit through the gift shop.